guys, I just had the greatest idea in the history of my time here on YouTube. As you all know, or as you can assume, I'm a nobody. I have no connections in Hollywood. I have no way of getting early screenings for movies, so I can't get out my review for Deadpool and Wolverine early. But I could just react to somebody else's. I can just steal their content, baby. No, I don't know. I feel like this might actually be a cute idea. I don't know. Will this be fun? Will my commentary over somebody else's review be engaging in any way? I honestly have no idea. We'll see. So we're gonna watch Christian Harloff's review, and we're gonna watch Dan Murrell's review. I picked their reviews because I watched them. I'm fans of these guys. I haven't seen their reviews yet, though. Actually, I know that Christian Harloff likes it because I watched his like 1 minute out of the theater reaction, but I haven't seen his full 15-minute review. But I picked these two guys because they're not like MCU haters, but they're also not MCU glizzy gobblers, right? They're not like one of these people that's like, everything Marvel does sucks and it's woke and blah, 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 blah. But they're also not one of these people that's like, everything post Endgame is amazing and the quality is still the same, and if you dislike it, then you're like a racist, homophobic Hitler youth. I don't know. They're just like normal guys, and they generally speaking will be just giving their honest take. So let's hit play.
How's it going, everybody? This is a non-spoiler review for Deadpool. And
also, yeah, I haven't watched these, so I'll be honest. Sometimes I'll watch a spoiler review or a spoiler-free review, and they just like mention something that I didn't really want to know. So just a warning there as well.
Wolverine. It is the newest MCU movie, the only MCU movie of 2024.
This is true.
Ryan Reynolds returns as Deadpool, the Merc with a mouth. Sean Levy directing this one. And this is the first MCU appearance for Deadpool. So, if you didn't know that Fox was bought over by Disney, and there was the Fox universe, there was the MCU, and they were pretty much separate. The X-Men couldn't come over. Deadpool couldn't come over. Well, that all changed when Disney bought Fox.
That's crazy. Like we are still living in the remnants of those times, right? Because Sony is doing their nonsense. But yeah, there used to be a time where there was like the MCU, and then Fox was trying to do their own stupid X-Men cinematic universe, and Sony was like threatening their cinematic universe with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Now they've made good on their threats with the current like bullshit that they're doing with Morbius and Kraven and Madam Web, although that's crumbling apart. But yeah, there was like a point in time where we were dealing with like 4 superhero cinematic universes because the DCEU is also trying to get started.
And the reason I say, well, why is this relevant to anything as far as the story itself? Because it's relevant inside the story itself, and it plays through the other stuff, that the TVA and time and multiverse and all those things. And if you are a casual viewer, you're like, I haven't watched everything, I just liked Deadpool, am I going to be lost? Well, I did something to make sure I could have an answer for you, as I took a friend of mine who had only seen Deadpool 1 and 2. This guy hasn't even seen Endgame. He hasn't seen a lot of the MCU stuff in general, and he just likes Deadpool. And I said, I wonder if he's going to be lost. And I said to him afterwards, I said, what'd you think? He said, I absolutely loved it. Now, a lot of things went over his head, but there's other things, and even stuff. This is a love letter to the Fox universe.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people get a little too worked up over like, it's like, people are going to be so lost when they watch like Marvel movies because they haven't seen all the other movies. It's like, if you just do the math, like you guys do realize that there are people that exist that only watch the Avengers movies. Those people do exist if you just do the math. So like, generally speaking, I do feel like Marvel does a decent job of making their movies entertaining and just fun or good enough that you can just watch like whatever movie you're watching for the sake of it. Like people will bring up something like Into the Multiverse of Madness. And I agree that that's probably the worst job that somebody's done with or that Marvel has done with making a first time viewer friendly film. But even with that one, like you still get the basic gist of it of like, oh, Wanda's bad. Well, oh, she's trying to find her kids. Oh, okay. And it's like, yes, is it as emotionally impactful if you didn't watch like WandaVision? Well, no. But like I would argue that it's not really that much worse than like Avengers Infinity War, where if you hadn't seen Civil War, you'd be like, wait, Tony and Steve aren't they're not they're 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 not friends anymore. Wait, what happened? Wait, they had a fight? Wait, what? Wait, what? Like I don't like I'm genuinely asking, like, is Multiverse of Madness that much worse than like Avengers Infinity War? Like I don't really think so. So I think they generally do a good job, and I imagine that Deadpool and Wolverine is also going to be so well because we're dealing with a Wolverine also that is technically not the Wolverine from the Fox universe. So I don't imagine there being any issues with this.
For sure. There are things that you're going to expect to happen that do. There's things that you're going to expect to happen that doesn't. I will tell you that what works for me in this is the chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. Hugh Jackman and Wolverine together. They work together. Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. He actually comes out. That's not a spoiler. That was me messing up my thing. Ryan Reynolds.
I feel like that was probably to some extent some kind of slip, because you have to imagine that there's going to be multiple Wolverine variants, right? Like I just assume that that's going to be in the movie.
And Hugh Jackman, Deadpool, and Wolverine together working, and it is there. You can tell that they're friends. You can tell that Sean Levy works really well with them. And the story is essentially that the TVA comes to recruit Deadpool, that there's something happening that he needs, that he can do, that his set of skills can do, and Deadpool wants purpose, and he wants to be able to belong, and he wants to.
Wait, let me listen to that again.
It comes to recruit Deadpool.
Okay.
That there's something happening that he needs, that he can do, that his.
Well, that actually is a question, because it's like, what universe-ending threat does the what is the universe-ending threat where the TVA goes, you know who we need? Deadpool. And where Deadpool then goes, you know who I need? Wolverine. I guess it might be a situation where like Deadpool is like maybe expendable in some way, where it's like, hey, if we take Deadpool out of this universe, it won't like create any problems in the multiverse. I feel like it might be a situation like that.
Set of skills can do, and Deadpool wants purpose, and he wants to be able to belong, and he wants to be able to be part of something. So he goes along with the TVA, and through that he's got to find Wolverine. Why? Go see the movie. I'll tell you that. And this version of Wolverine is troubled. Most versions of Wolverine are troubled, but this one in particular. And so what people are going to ask is, does the humor out?
Yeah, I will say the trailers made it pretty obvious that the other X-Men in this Wolverine's universe died. That's what it seems like.
Power the heart. And I think, honestly, I can say sometimes.
Raptor Strike deodorant smells amazing. Sweat and odor have no place here.
Ollie and Anna seem so perfect. And what people didn't know was she was screaming.
Anyways, if you're a white woman, then you will watch the TikTok Star Murders, I imagine, on Peacock. Anyways, yeah, Christian Harloff, he actually is a guy who's, or like one of the things that he's consistently been saying over the years is that he's getting tired of humor overpowering Marvel stuff.
But is the heart missing? No, the heart is there, and Hugh Jackman really brings the heart to this particular movie. And Ryan Reynolds, when he's not cracking jokes, his story absolutely brings heart to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I think the Deadpool movies do decently well, is they actually do have a pretty compelling story. At least the first one with him and Vanessa. I'll be honest, Deadpool 2 didn't really resonate with me. in the sense that I remember liking it when I watched it, but I kind of don't remember that much about it. Cable was there. Zazie Beats. I kind of don't remember what happened in that movie. That's crazy. I might actually watch that before watch the movie tomorrow.
But also, I think that
Or
there were times
tomorrow.
when I was watching it and I'm going, oh, yeah, it was a funny joke. I think that maybe they're really pouring the humor on, and they're really breaking that wall to let you know, this is the Fox universe into the MCU now, and it's right in your face. And as much as that sometimes would bother me, this is kind of Deadpool shtick, and they give it to you right away. And there are sometimes, like I said, that I think that the jokes are like, yeah, they're there, they're funny, and I'm like, oh, right there, I wish we would have had a little bit more heart. But it never took me to where I'm like, oh, all this is just joke. There's a lot of jokes, but I think that they established the tone very well, and I really enjoyed this movie. And I think that I think that what they do, which I also love, is they don't shy away from calling the fact that the multiverse has been a freaking mess. This phase of Marvel has been
yeah, that's something that I've heard, is that they mention the fact that the MCU has fallen off +L+ ratio. Which I will say, like, Disney, like, their two marquee franchises in Star Wars and Marvel, I mean, it has just been not great over the past few years. And unlike Lucasfilm and, like, Kathleen Kennedy, Kevin Feige has been very open about his acknowledgement of that. And that's one of the things that does make me a little more optimistic about the future of the MCU, is that they've openly acknowledged that there have been problems with the MCU, and they've actually laid out what they're doing to change it, right? So they're, like, limiting the amount of, or they're scaling back the amount of projects that they're doing. And sorry, I had a brain fart there. And, like, Kevin Feige, because he's, like, scaling back the amount of projects that he's doing, he's able to be more involved in all the projects again. And because we wouldn't need to get into this, but basically Disney, they had to, like, put this, like, mandate where the MCU had to create, like, a certain amount of Disney Plus shows every year and a certain amount of movies every year. And that's why we were getting so much content, and it was becoming so mediocre that it's because they just, like, they had to make it and release it. She-Hulk VFX be damned. So the fact that they've acknowledged it and they've talked about how they're actually putting a plan into place to fix all of that does make me a little more optimistic. You know, it is at the end of the day going to be we'll have to wait and see if the content actually gets better, but I'm a little optimistic.
a mess, and they embrace that. There are cameos in here. I'm not going to tell you what those cameos are. You expect them. There have been rumors. I would definitely tell you to stay off the internet in general.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get spoiled. You want to see this because there's some reveals in this that I had no clue was going to happen, and I was happy that they do. And it's not just cameos. There's roles. There's one particular cameo that is fantastic. And if you watch my show, you'll know that, well, he's definitely going to like that particular cameo, and I did. And
who would that be? I'm trying to remember if there's like a specific Marvel character that he's been wanting to see or that he likes from the Fox X-Men universe. I'm not sure. I can't pick anything out off the top of my head.
And we'll discuss that in the full spoiler review and in the spoiler discussion that I'm going to have with Winston and Coy. But what they did and what Ryan Reynolds does is that the essence of the character himself, and I think that's the beauty of being able to, throw in things like the fact that he is Ryan Reynolds and the fact that some people can find that jarring, but I think because Deadpool's been doing it since the first movie, it definitely works. It is a violent movie, very violent movie. Again, I give them, people are like, oh, I wonder if Disney's going to go full R. They go full R and more. It's super gory. It's super violent. And the other thing is they pay respect to the stuff that came before. And I think that, as I said...
I will say, when we talk about, the why of bringing back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine aside from money. I will say that we've yet to really see Wolverine like unleashed in an R-rated film that really like it's Wolverine, baby, because obviously throughout the Fox X-Men films and the Wolverine movies, they were all PG-13, so you couldn't really have like the full potential of Wolverine like slashing and killing people and blood and guts and gore and whatever. Now, we did get Logan, which was rated R, but that was like a broke ass like diminished Wolverine. I mean, there is that one scene where he like takes the drugs and he's like running through the woods and he's like, "Rah, Wolverine!" But that was like one scene. One thing that I do think that this is going to deliver on is a Wolverine, presumably in his prime. Like, I don't think they would do like Logan again, where he's like diminished. Wolverine, presumably in his prime, in an R-rated movie. I think that actually does validate it, in my opinion.
There's a love letter to the Fox universe. There are things that happen inside of it that you're like, oh, because there was certain things I think people thought were going to happen in a particular way that I don't think did. The end credit scene is what everyone's going to say. I heard the end credit scene is just mind-blowing. Not really. It's relevant to the film, but it's not anything that you're going to like, oh my God, that's one of the best post-credit scenes ever. It's fine.
Okay, that's interesting. That makes me wonder if it's not like setting things up in the future. You know, that kind of makes me wonder if it's not like, oh my gosh, it's Pedro Pascal is Fantastic Four. Deadpool's gonna be in Fantastic Four. That kind of makes me think that it's not gonna be something like that, and it might even be just like a little jokey thing from the movie. I don't know.
You know, like I said, it fits the movie. It fits the movie. So I will say that my biggest criticisms was sometimes I wanted the heart to overweigh the jokes, and then there were certain times when I was like, okay, they're gonna play this joke again, and it's funny, but I'm like, oh, I just wish they would just die.
Yeah, I mean that's my thing, right? Like I've been a little colder on this than most people on the movie, just because I'm in a place where I was never all that like into the Fox X-Men stuff. Like they just never really resonated with me that much as a kid. Like I liked those movies, but they're not like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or even Andrew Garfield Spider-Man for that part. So like seeing Hugh Jackman back as Wolverine, you know, with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, it's just not a No Way Home moment for me. And on Ryan Reynolds' part, this might be a controversial take, but I'm getting a little tired of his shtick. Like his whole, oh, I'm not going to be sincere in anything that comes out of my mouth shtick. Because it's just like, okay, I get it. Like you did in the Deadpool movies. Like he just shows up in like random movies like Hobbs and Shaw and he does the same shtick again. And it's like, all right, I gotcha. So all that stuff is kind of working against it for me. Now, the one thing that does help me like appreciate it more is that is what Deadpool is. Like Ryan Reynolds, it literally is Wade Wilson. He is Deadpool. So in a Deadpool movie, I think I will be more willing to accept it. But like a bunch of Fox X-Men cameos is not going to make this movie great for me. I do need it to have a good story. And Christian is saying that it has that, but it should just be noted that he's also saying that the jokes overpower the story sometimes, so that is a little worrying.
Dive into that heart right there, but then they do. And when they dive into the heart,
well,
I'm like,
never mind.
Okay, I see that this bond that they have, it's a buddy cop kind of, or I guess buddy cop, but a buddy action film with this is how annoying Deadpool can be and how angry Wolverine is, and the two of them together trying to work together, and Deadpool trying to convince Wolverine to step it up, and Wolverine just telling Deadpool to shut the F up, and then everybody else that has to deal with them. Let's say the people are going to ask the villains, how are the villains in this one? They're okay. They're okay. Villains are okay. It's like there's Nova, to me,
that's a little disappointing.
thought was going to be a little more menacing than she was. There were certain things that she did that I was like, okay, this is really going to work. And then it just she kind of fades in the background, and the spotlight really is on Wolverine and Deadpool. But it is the best MCU movie in quite a while. It should set some things in motion for the remainder of...
Okay, we need to, he didn't say it here, but we need to retire the best MCU film since Endgame. We need to retire that, okay? Guess what? There was an MCU movie that came out that is better than Endgame, and that movie is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The new barometer should be, is this the best MCU film since Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? Now, I understand that there aren't very many films that have come out since Volume 3. Is it just the Marvels? I think it might just be the Marvels. Doesn't matter, okay? If the movie isn't better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I don't think this will be, I don't want like the illusion, I don't want the implication that that Deadpool and Wolverine is better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Unless it actually is. But then you have to mention that. Because that shouldn't just be something that you just aloofly say. You know what I mean? Am I making sense? Anyways.
Of the MCU and how it works, I believe. So overall, I'm going to go 4.3 out of 5.
Whoa.
Can
I just say, I hate decimal numbers in rating systems. Like, what are you doing? like at the most I'll accept is like 4.5 if it's like out of 10, you know, so that you're kind of emulating the out of 10 rating system. What is this 4.3 nonsense? Like, what are we doing? What does that mean? What does that mean?
For Deadpool and Wolverine, yeah, so I give it 8 out of 10, little 8 out of 10, little 8.2 out of 10. I think that works. That works for me. So I'm curious, and it could go up. I got to see it again. Could go down. I don't know if it's going to go down. I think it'll stay there. But I think that this was a movie to me that I really enjoyed, and I was curious because I think that what Marvel did was I think they lost their way, and this movie doesn't lose its way. It clearly feels like part of the Deadpool universe in general. Do the cameos feel... I saw a couple tweets that said that the cameos were just there to have cameos, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree. I think that they actually have relevance to what is happening in this overall universe and this overall movie, and it works.
You know what I would love to see? I would love for oh god, what's his name? The guy who played Cyclops, James Marsden. I would love for James Marsden to appear as Cyclops and just not be the butt of a joke. Like, I would love for him to just show up as Cyclops and be a badass and, like, not get made fun of at all. Just give him some redemption from how he was treated.
Works to me. And I'm definitely going to see it again. I'm trying to think if there's anything else there. The music works. The soundtrack, where the soundtrack for Deadpool has also been crucial in the way that they use certain songs from pop culture and pop culture references and all those things. I think that there's some moments that happen even with the fight scenes and the way that if people are walking in, it almost feels like a wrestling event at one point. I really want to dive into the spoilers once I can, not here, but because there's so much I want to talk about of things. There's a particular comedic moment, which I thought was the funniest moment in the movie. There's a sequence that happens in the movie that I thought was hilarious. If I tell you about it, you're going to hate my guts for telling you.
Yeah, don't do it.
Do that. I'll do it in the spoilers. But there's just a moment. There's particular characters that are having a riff, and it's hilarious. It's really hilarious, and it's some of these things that they do use from things that aren't maybe not known to everybody. And that's what I was curious about and why I brought my friend, because there's certain things and references that happen, even in jokes, that are thrown out there that I'm like, if you're not paying attention what's happening in like the overall news cycle with movies and this, you might not know what the hell.
I wonder if they're like referencing like superhero fatigue or whatever, stuff like that.
He's talking about, and my friend didn't. but he still thought it was hilarious. He still thought things were funny. So I'm curious to what the overall audience who's not paying attention, the casual audience, I think that they're going to dig it because it's full on balls to the wall. No punches, no punches held back, man. It is, they definitely go for it. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a full spoiler review just by myself. That will come out over the weekend, and then a full spoiler discussion with my friends Winston A. Marshall and Coy Jandro. That will drop on Monday. That'll be a longer conversation, probably close to an hour, so if you want to tune into that. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of it. I just did a Joker 2 trailer reaction. That's up on the...
All right, so that was that was a good video. Obviously, he seems to like it. He does have some issues, which does worry me a little bit because I could very easily see myself thinking that the humor overpowers some of the emotional beats as well. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that happening. A little disappointing that the villains aren't stronger. Definitely would have liked to have just gotten another great Marvel villain as opposed to some of the more throwaway ones, right, of like Phase 1 and stuff like that. But yeah, let's move on to Dan Murrell's video. All right, let's play.
Deadpool and Wolverine hits theaters this weekend.
I have no idea if he likes it or not, by the way. I already knew that Christian Harloff liked it.
Yet another phoned-in sequel, or did they put in maximum effort? I'll tell you right now. This video is brought to you by Miracle Made. Go to Try Miracle.
All right,
review it.
Go. You know what?
Hello,
okay,
everybody.
I'm not gonna be an asshole. I'm stealing his content. Go to Miracle Made. Go to www.trymiraclemade.com/Dan. Use the code Dan.
Review for more info. Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Murrell here with my review
Hello.
for Deadpool and Wolverine. The review embargo has dropped, and so I'm sure you're seeing a flood of new reviews hitting your feeds and social media.
I am Dan, but you know what? I'm watching yours because I appreciate your perspective, your sharp analysis, much like Wolverine's claws. Like that one? God, I'm good.
Etc. This is a spoiler-free review in that I am not addressing anything that hasn't already been revealed in the trailers, etc. for the film. As always, the caveat goes that if you want to go into the film completely blind, well, you probably shouldn't be watching reviews anyway. But I am not going to spoil anything that has not explicitly already been put in marketing materials. So let's jump into it. Deadpool and Wolverine, the first Deadpool movie since 2018, the only MCU movie that we're going to see this year, and the union, really, of the MCU and the Deadpool/Fox universe. As Deadpool has grown, the team behind the movie's also grown. We've gone from 2 writers on the first film, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, to 3 on the second film with the addition of Ryan Reynolds, to 5 credited writers on this movie, Reese, Wernick, Reynolds, director Sean Levy, and Zeb Wells, a veteran.
That is a little worrying, to be honest. I don't know. Is it? I don't. I should say. I don't actually know how many writers are usually on like a Marvel movie. Probably a lot, to be honest. Now that I think about it, even when you go back to the first 3 phases. So maybe it's not necessarily.
Of Robot Chicken, who also wrote an episode of She-Hulk for Marvel. Deadpool and Wolverine finds Deadpool, also known as Wade Wilson, at a transitional time in his life when he's recruited by the TVA for a special mission. And folks who haven't seen Loki, and particularly season 1 of Loki, will likely be pretty confused because there isn't much hand-holding when it comes to the TVA, multiple timelines, and all that stuff.
Interesting.
When Deadpool discovers that his own timeline is in peril, he seeks out the help.
I mean, even if you haven't seen Loki, I do feel like there's been enough multiverse stuff in media lately that people probably just understand. Especially with No Way Home, they probably just understand.
Help of Wolverine and finds a variant with his own emotional baggage. This isn't the Logan that we know, love, and have already said goodbye to, which allows us to rediscover some aspects of Wolverine with this new version, and also allows the film to have some fun with Logan's comic book history, as well as get him into that classic yellow and blue uniform. The trailers have been cagey about other details, so I won't talk about them either, but I will say that there are a lot of surprises in Deadpool and Wolverine. Some big, some small, some to a scale that I honestly wouldn't have even imagined that they could be in this movie because I didn't think that they could or would be possibilities even. If what you're looking for is a
Well, I don't know. I wonder what he means by that. I mean, could we get like an Avengers Endgame portal scene that's like actually on that scale where it is literally just everybody from the Fox X-Men universe coming in? I mean, maybe. I don't know.
fourth wall breaking, universe smashing, self-aware, self-referential Deadpool movie that delivers on all the potential of this now united Marvel and Fox universe, then that's exactly what this movie offers. The Easter egg hunters are going to have years worth of content dissecting every frame to find all of the hidden Easter eggs and references to past comics and movies, not to mention all the ones that aren't hidden. If what you're looking for is a funny movie, then I also don't think you're going to be disappointed because, as always, the humor is on point between Deadpool and the characters, and of course between Deadpool and the audience. If you thought that Ryan Reynolds and his team were going to take it easy on the MCU, including the slump that they've been in lately, well, then you don't know Mr. Poole very well. Not every joke hits. There was one.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's cool. Like, I think that it's just important for Marvel to be self-aware of the place that they're in. I think it's a big problem that Lucasfilm is having right now, where there just doesn't seem to be any indication that they're listening to the fans. I mean, it is just, and I'm not even talking about the people that are the people that are just gonna hate it because it's like, oh whoa. Like, there are a lot of people that don't like the Acolyte. And it's not because they're not because they care about lesbian space witches. It's just not a great show. And there just doesn't seem to be any indication whatsoever that Lucasfilm is listening. That's not the case with Marvel. So I think they should be commended for that.
One running gag that I didn't find as funny as the screen time that was devoted to it, but I laughed a lot during Deadpool and Wolverine, and there is no drop-off when it comes to the funny moments. But, and I'm sure you probably suspected that there was a but coming.
Booty.
If you are looking for a streamlined story, if you're looking for something that shows a complete recovery for the MCU, that completely does away with the scattershot nature of some of their previous films, then Deadpool and Wolverine doesn't exactly deliver what I think you'll be looking for. This is a movie that is a collection of incredibly awesome, sometimes mind-blowing things inside of what I think is a pretty weak structure. The movie's trying to do a lot.
All right, he's a little more critical than Christian Harloff. Okay, interesting.
And it feels like there wasn't enough focus on how to quite make it all work together, which leads to none of the main story points getting the care that they really deserve. Deadpool and Wolverine is trying to tell a Deadpool story, it's trying to tell a Wolverine story, and it's trying to serve as this synthesis and this introduction to Deadpool into the MCU, which would be a lot to ask of any movie. And keep in mind that the development process of this film openly was a difficult one. They worked on trying to crack the story. They had to change course when Hugh Jackman decided to come back. And let's not forget that this was also a strike movie, that it was interrupted in the middle of production. They had to leave. They had to come back. And it does feel like some of that chaos in the development and the production of the film made its way into the final product. It's a crowded movie, sometimes literally, and that works in the movie's favor sometimes, but it also works against it, including pushing the majority of the established Deadpool characters into the background in favor of Wolverine and the
Yeah, I mean, that's probably an assumption that I've been making, right? That you're probably not going to see a ton of the previous Deadpool cast, which is a shame, but well, obviously people are going to be soy-facing at, like, whatever Halle Berry, not Halle Bailey, Halle Berry coming out of a portal. So, it is what it is.
Litany of cameos.
By the way, to be clear, I don't actually know if Halle Berry is going to show up in the movie. I don't know that. I'm just throwing that out there.
Which makes them feel superfluous in their own franchise.
Yeah, I should also mention, I mentioned James Marsden before. I do not actually know if James Marsden is or isn't going to be in this movie.
I also had a couple of issues with the actual direction of the movie. For example, most of the fight scenes are done in that Deadpool slow-mo style that we're used to, where we can really drink in what's happening, and that starts from pretty much the very first scene. However, there was one pivotal fight scene that was shot very shaky, and it was doubly frustrating for me because it was a scene where, as a fan, I wanted to drink in everything. It was one of those never again type moments where I wanted to really focus in on the characters, and it was frustrating to have to like wait to find that one still frame inside of the shaky cam footage.
I wonder if he's talking about the Wolverine Sabretooth fight, because people were like surprisingly excited about that. I never really connected with the Fox X-Men movies, so I was kind of surprised that people were like, oh my gosh, it's the Sabretooth from the first X-Men movie. They're finally gonna have a big battle. Because I think, isn't that a thing in the first X-Men movie where they don't have like a super satisfying fight scene?
Footage where I could make out what character was doing what, or what each individual character was doing. That's not the majority of the fight scenes, but I did think at a pretty critical moment there was a poor decision in how they chose to shoot that specific scene. Having said that, when
I will say as well, I'm not a huge fan of slow motion in general. Like, I'm not saying it never works, but most of the time I would rather just have things play out fluidly. But that's just me.
I say that
Zack Snyder would obviously disagree.
Are awesome things in this movie. My jaw literally dropped more than once, and that's not me being hyperbolic. I try not to oversell or overhype things because I think that works
please
against
don't
the
do that.
movie if people go in with expectations that are a little bit too high. But this meets the full potential of bringing Deadpool into the MCU and the possibilities with the fact that he is one of these characters that can jump between worlds and do all of these different kinds of things.
This makes me, I don't know, man, with the way they're talking, I mean, I can't help but assume that we are going to get, like, all of the Fox X-Men characters. Like, I feel like it's almost a for sure thing. And now I'm even starting to think that we're probably also going to get like MCU characters. Like, you know, there was that one trailer. There's the final trailer where it ends with Deadpool going pss, 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 or pew 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 pew, and he's doing the Spider-Man. Could we see Spider-Man? And if so, which Spider-Man? I don't know.
Things. There have been lots of rumors about who might appear in this film. Some of those rumors are true. Some of those rumors are not true. Some of those rumors aren't what they appear to be. But it's all done out of a sense of fun, not just fan service, as I felt the cameos in Multiverse of Madness were. Everybody that's in this movie is having a great time, and it shows. And
I'm a bit of a Multiverse of Madness defender. I mean, I do feel like Multiverse of Madness cameos, like, it's not like they didn't serve the story. Like, those cameos were there to establish the power of Wanda and to establish, like, a sense of dread. At least I felt like. Now, I don't know. I know people have their problems with how, like, characters acted in them, and that's fair enough if you have those problems, but I don't think that they were just I don't think that they just threw the cameos in just to throw them in. At least that's not how I felt.
I think that fans of Marvel, not just the MCU, but Marvel in general, will lose their minds at a few of the things that are.
Okay. See, I mean, when you say stuff like that, it's like Wesley Snipes' Blade could show up. You know what I mean? Morbius could show up
in this film. As far as who I can tell you is in the movie, well, we have Ryan Reynolds, obviously, who was born to play Deadpool in this non-X-Men Origins version. As always, he's hilarious, but also able to ground the character with a sense of humanity. It is largely fun in games, but Deadpool is playing for some really big stakes here, and we actually believe that because Ryan Reynolds isn't just out there throwing out quips, he's actually, acting. And because he's also in the title and on the poster, I think I'm pretty comfortable also saying that Hugh Jackman is back as Wolverine, and he proves why he is such a great actor. Yes, he has that Wolverine ferocity and intensity that we know, but he's also incredibly funny in this part because this is a different Wolverine than the one that we're familiar with. And because he's Logan, and Logan can never be happy, he's also haunted by his past, and Jackman doesn't shy away from that drama. I actually think that this is my second favorite performance from Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, behind his performance in Logan. And what I also...
I mean, that's honestly not that surprising. Is that really surprising? Well, okay, you know what? I need to stop acting like other people don't absolutely love the Fox X-Men movies. Well, some of them.
Appreciate about this is it's not a bait and switch. Deadpool and Wolverine is actually about Deadpool and Wolverine. Hugh Jackman is a true co-lead, and he appears throughout almost the entire film. Emma Corrin plays the movie's antagonist. I won't give away what character she's playing in case you don't know who it is. I will say that she is a villain in the finest tradition of the MCU, and that she is very good in a part that also feels very underdeveloped. Matthew Macfadyen plays...
Okay, so I mean, that is a common... It's a common refrain, unfortunately.
Deadpool's content...
Did I use that word right? I think a common refrain is a bit of a... Well, I forget what that term is, but it's not necessary because a refrain is like a thing that repeats. So I'm stupid.
Attacked at the TVA, a deliciously hateable worm of a man that Macfadyen obviously enjoyed playing. He's allowed to truly embrace that comic sensibility that simmered under the surface of Tom Wambsgans on Succession, and it's great that he gets to play a character that for once knows more about the universe.
I get the feeling that he's going to end up being the ultimate villain of the movie. I don't know. That's a feel that I get.
Than Deadpool does. And then there are the people that you don't know are in this movie, and I wouldn't dream of spoiling them. Honestly, I think if I spoiled even half of them, you would probably find my house and burn it down for spoiling it for you. I'm sure that those names are out there. Some of them are floating around on IMDb already. Do yourself a favor. Shut out all the spoilers. Don't go looking for it, because especially if you're a big Marvel MCU fan, you owe it to yourself to be surprised when these characters arrive on screen.
The former president is
Oh my
a
gosh.
threat to our
We're getting
most
political.
fundamental freedoms. He has openly said he is proud.
There's a lot more I want to say, but I'm going to have to save it all for the spoiler review. So I'll wrap up by saying that Deadpool and Wolverine is the story of two characters, but it's also largely a story of two movies. There's the A+ use of humor and fan favorites in a way that both harnesses the love we have for these characters and uses them in a way that goes beyond empty cameos. And what I think is frankly a C-grade story that struggles to bring it all together. When I look at the movie, I do still see a lot of the struggles that the MCU has had in recent years, including this indecisiveness about where to put the focus of the film. But I also can't deny that I had a hell of a great time watching the movie, and I laughed a lot, and I just enjoyed the experience. I'll be interested to see what
I mean, that is... It is kind of the story of No Way Home, I feel like, where, like, No Way Home, like, I'm not going to deny and act like I didn't love watching the movie, but it's a movie that the more I think about, like, the less I love, you know? Like, I don't, like, if you replaced Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield with, like, other random Spider-Man variants, I would say that No Way Home is, like, it's a good movie, but it's not a great movie. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it is the story of, you know, of cameo porn. Now, again, like Dan is saying here, that doesn't mean that, like, it doesn't work, because it can. It absolutely can. And, like, at the end of the day, like, if you love a movie because of the cameos, like, that doesn't, it just is what it is. Like, that, I don't think you should beat yourself up over that. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. You can't control necessarily what you like and don't like.
Think of the film as time passes and the surprise of what's in the movie and the novelty of the jokes begins to wear off, and maybe I'll be able to get a bit more of an idea of what that's going to be after I see the film a second time before my spoiler review, which is coming out on Friday. But as for right now, in my book, Deadpool and Wolverine gets a lot of things very right that allow me to put it comfortably in the it's good range, despite my issues with the story. And if you're not as hung up on story issues as I am, and I don't say that in a condescending way, I think you'll have even fewer overall issues with what is a very, very fun and entertaining movie. This isn't the cure-all for the MCU that many people, including myself, had hoped that it would be. It's not necessarily indicative that they are past the struggles that they've been having, but it is one hell of a Band-Aid, and it helps to bridge the gap between where we've been and what comes next. So those are my thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. What do you think? Let's be honest, you were still going to go see it anyway, probably. Let me know down in the comments below. And before we go, I want to thank the sponsor for
Yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, the big thing about this is that everybody's been like, is it going to save the MCU? Is Deadpool and Wolverine going to save the MCU? Blah, blah, blah. Deadpool and Wolverine can't save the MCU. The only thing that can save the MCU is a consistent stream of quality movies. Like, Deadpool and Wolverine is probably going to be a win for Marvel. I'm just assuming, right? I'm assuming that fans are gonna watch it and they're gonna love it. It's probably going to make over $1 billion. They then have to follow it up with a good Captain America movie. I mean, that's the next one up on the docket. You know, I'll give Agatha all along a pass. If Agatha ends up being good, then that's great. I mean, that'll obviously help. But like, if Agatha ends up being like another disappointing Marvel show that nobody watches, like that's probably gonna be fine, right? But Captain America: Brave New World has to be good. And I'm not confident about that being good at all, considering all the struggles that it's had and all the reshoots that it's had. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'll be watching Deadpool and Wolverine tomorrow. I'll have my own personal review out tomorrow as well. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe, like the video. Do you think this video was worthwhile for me? or is it just way too like desperate? I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. See you in the next one.